Hi there and welcome to Tech Life, a channel where I aim to review everything from selfie sticks to laptops to IDs for coding, video editing, software for producing thumbnails, essentially anything tech related. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you have anything that you think I should review, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to review that product. In this relatively short video, we are going to be looking at constructors. A constructor is a special method found within classes. It's a method in the class which gets executed when a class object is created. So when we instantiate a class, this constructor will be executed. Constructors are normally used to provide initialization code for our classes. The name of a constructor is always the same name as a class. If we do not explicitly create a constructor, C# creates a default constructor in the background for us. We won't be able to see it, but it's definitely there. So here we've got a diagram of a number of classes that we might have created. The first one is called animal, and these are the methods. So we've got make noise, eat, sleep, roam. But because we didn't explicitly define a constructor, C# would have created one, but we're not able to see it. Again, with lion, um, the subclass down here, this would also have a constructor created by C#, and the name of the constructor will always be the same as the class. So the constructor for animal will be called animal. The constructor for lion will be called lion, tiger, and cat, and so on. So in this diagram, we have created constructors, or we've shown constructors as methods, and as mentioned before, the name of the constructor will be exactly the same as a class. So the animal class has all capital letters, and as we know, C# is type sensitive, so the constructor will also have the same name. And again, down here with lion, tiger, and cat. Just a recap, so if we did not explicitly create these constructors, C# would have created them, and the name of those constructors will be exactly the same as a class. If we do decide to create constructors, then we can use those constructors to initialize our classes. So we can pass arguments and values into our class using the constructor. We are going to fire up Visual Studio and we'll put a small application together, and then it'll be easy for us to understand what constructors do and how we use them. So we are going to create a new project. That new project is going to be a console application. Console app. We're going to give this console application a name. We're going to call it constructor app. We're just going to create it. So as always, we are going to get rid of the program.cs class. So we want to replace it with one of our own. We're going to create two classes in this small application first, and I'll explain why as we go along. So the first one we're going to create, we're going to call it, let's call it cars. So if we do right click and, sorry, right click, add in a new item, we're going to call this cars, and it's going to be .cs, so it's going to be a class. I don't need most of these using statements, so we're going to get rid of those. And so we've got the namespace constructor app, and we've got the name of the class. Within this class, we are gonna firstly we're gonna declare some variables, some variables. So we're gonna have 3 string variables. The first one is called make. The second one again is string and is called model. And another string, and it's going to be called color. And the last of these variables is going to be an integer, and we're just simply calling that year. And so those are our instant variables. This class is going to have just the one single method, and I'm going to call this drive. It's not going to take any parameters. And the first thing we'll do within this method is to assign values to these variables that we've just created. So we're going to say make is going to be obviously a Lamborghini. So it's a Lamborghini. And the model's quite an old one, old but classic, and it's going to be called Espada. And I've seen a really, really nice metallic sort of ocean blue one of these. So I'm going to give this a color of blue. And these were first registered. They were first constructed back in 1968, I think. So the year is going to be 68. And it's going to be a quite simple, uncluttered method. So we're just going to have a couple of console.write lines. So we're going to output something to the console, and we do that by using console. And we have to spell it correctly though. Console.write. And we're going to say you drive so you drive, and then we're going to put we'll put the make here first. If I can get my fingers to work properly. So you drive, and it should say you drive the Lamborghini, and then we're going to put the model, but we're going to leave a space between the two. So we've got 2 inverted commas with a space, and then we're going to concatenate the name of the model. We end that line with a semicolon, tab down slightly, and we're going to have another console.write line. And on this one, we are going to say it was first registered in, and then I'm going to concatenate the year to this. And again, we terminate that line with a semicolon, and that's all this method does. We assign values, hard-coded values to these instance variables, and we just output the values of those instance variables to the console. If we built this app in its current state, it would throw an error if we build a solution. And the reason it's going to throw an error is because we don't have a main method. So I'm going to create another class, and we're going to place the main method within that class. So again, if we go up to this the constructor app. We do a right click and we do add a new item, and I'm going to call this cars main. So we add that. Oops, what did I do there? Delete that. I know I did. I inadvertently got rid of .cs. So we go back, add new item. Okay, we're going to call this cars main, making sure we got the .cs, and there we go. Again, we're going to get rid of these using statements. We don't need them. We don't use them. So here we've got one single using statement. We've got the namespace, and then we've got the name of the class. Within this class, we're going to have our main method, and again, it's always static. It's not going to return anything. Capital M for main, and then we're going to have a string args, open and close curly braces. And this method is going to be used to firstly create an instance of our class cars, and then to call the drive method. So we're gonna create an instance of cars. We know how to do that. We use the type of the class. We give this instance a name, so I'm going to call it my car one, and we do the equal new, and then the type of the class again with the open and close parentheses with the semicolon at the end of the line. So we have a reference to one instance of our class. Now we can manipulate our class by using that reference. So, I'm going to call the drive method. And we do that by using the reference that we've just given that instance, and that's car1 and dot, and then the dot allows us to pick up the method, and we're not going to pass it any values. So we have the open close parentheses and the semicolon. I'm just going to quickly go back to cars, and I'm going to put this console dot read key. Okay, I think we are ready to go. F5. Okay, you drive the Lamborghini Espada. It was first registered in 1968. So you're probably sitting there thinking, I thought this tutorial was on constructors. So where's this constructor? Well, because we haven't explicitly created a constructor, C# goes and creates one in the background for us. So we haven't explicitly created a constructor for cars, but we wouldn't be able to create an instance of cars if it didn't have a constructor. So C# is clever enough to go, okay, this chap hasn't created a constructor, I'll create one in the background. And that's the constructor that is used when this car class gets instantiated. Okay, so let's change this cars class to have a constructor. I'm just going to make some space here. And as mentioned before, the constructor, if we do declare or create a constructor for class, it has to be named exactly as the way the class is. So we're going to Control C to copy that. And then in order to create a constructor, it's just a simple method. We're going to say public, name of the constructor, come on, cars. And then for this constructor, we're going to pass in a couple of values. So we're going to pass in a string, and it's going to be make. And then we're going to pass in another string, and it's going to be the model. Keep spelling model incorrectly. Open, close, curly braces, and here we're going to say, we're going to assign values to this make and model instance variables, and we can do that by using the keyword this. This.make is going to equal whatever value comes in over here. So this.make is going to equal make, and this.model is going to equal the value that is passed in over here. And that's our constructor. Simple as that. Now we can change our drive method, because make and model are going to be passed in by the user, so we don't have to explicitly hard code those. And I didn't use the color. We forgot the color of our wonderful Lamborghini, so we're going to use that here. So you drive the make and model. It was first registered in the year value, and then I'm going to say here I'm going to leave a space, and I'm going to say its color is, and we're going to concatenate the value of color to there. And now if we build this, we're going to get errors, because now we've explicitly declared a constructor, and if we try to instantiate this if we try to instantiate this cars class as it is, then it's going to complain. It's going to say there is no constructor that doesn't take values, two string values. So if we go back to our cars main class, we are getting this error. There is no argument given that corresponds to the required parameters make. So now we have to change this class slightly. So we're still instantiating our cars class, which obviously still use the new keyword and the name cars, but now we have to pass in a couple of values. And again, we're going to pass in Lamborg, if I can spell this. So it's another Lamborghini, and this time we're gonna say it's a Diablo. You can't go wrong with a Diablo. Okay. So we've created an instance of the cars class. We've passed in two string variables. One is called one has a value of Lamborghini, the other has a value of Diablo. When this cars class is instantiated, this constructor takes in those values, the make and model assigned to this instance variable make and this instance variable model. Those are then used in this console.writeLine statement. I've got a squiggly under cars, non-nullable field color. Okay, still complaining about color, but we're not really concerned about that. Okay, let's rebuild this to see if we've got any errors. Build 1 succeeded, 0 failed, F5 to run. Okay, you drive the Lamborghini Diablo, and it was first registered in 68, which it wasn't, and its color is blue, and I'm going to change that because those are incorrect. So let's change this. So Diablo started production run back in 1990. Oh, that's wrong. No, that's fine. So we're passing in Diablo, and we're not going to give it a color blue. Diablos don't come in blue, do they? I'm going to give it red. Okay, F5 that. Okay, that's better. So you drive the Lamborghini Diablo, it was first registered in 1990, and its color is red, yes. So by using a constructor, we were able to initialize variables, or the value of variables, for our cars class. Instead of hard coding the make and model, we were able to pass in values, which makes our applications a lot more flexible. We can also create more than one constructor for a class. So let's go ahead and do that. So this time I'm gonna leave this one where it is. We're just gonna make some space down here, and again the constructor will have the exact same name of the class, but in order to differentiate this constructor from the one above, we're going to have a different number of parameters or arguments that we're passing in. So we're going to still pass in a string, and it's going to be make again. We're going to have another string, and again it's going to be model, but this constructor will allow the user to pass in the year as well. And now we can do something like this dot make equals make, this dot model equals model, and then finally this dot year equals year. Okay, so now we have three values that we can pass into our cars class, and we're going to have to change our drive method slightly. So we're going to have an if statement here. We're going to say, let's just clean this up. I'll get rid of that. And we're going to get rid of, and let's just delete that. Yeah. So the only thing we've hard coded is a color. We're going to say if year is equal to 0, which is the default value of integer if we don't assign a value to it, then then do something, and I'm going to copy and paste some of this stuff here. So if year equals 0, it means that the user hasn't specified a value for year, therefore they must have used the first constructor. And if that's the case, then we don't have a value for year, so the only thing we can output is the make and model and the color. So we're going to borrow this console.writeLine, copy that. So if year is equal to 0, we don't have that value. The user hasn't passed it in, so the only thing we can pass in are the values that the user has specified. So that would be make and model. And I can add a little bit to this and say have a space between the text first, and then say its color is, and then we can, oops, its color is, and then put the color variable there. If the year isn't 0, then we can say do something else, and in that case we can output not only the make and model, but we can also output the year. We already have a value for color, so we can do that as well. Let's clean this up slightly, get rid of these. So let me just explain what we've done here. Got a little bit messy while we were copying and pasting. I'll talk through this code before I run it. So we've still got the drive method. We're still hard coding a single value for color, but this time there is a potential that make and model are going to be passed in by the user, or make, model, and year going to be passed in. So we have to determine which of the two constructors the user has used. In order to distinguish between the two, I've looked at the year, value of year, and I've said if year is equal to 0, then I know the user hasn't used the second constructor, he or she has used the first one. And so if year is equal to 0, then I don't have a value for year, and I cannot output that. So the only things I can output are the make, the model, and the color. However, if year is not equal to 0, it must have a value in there. And in that case, then I can output the make and model plus the year and color. Okay, let's see this in action. Oh no, I can't see this in action just yet, because we have to, okay, we can see this in action. First, we'll just use the make and model, F5. And because we didn't pass in year, the only thing our application is able to output is the make, which is Lamborghini, the model, which is Diablo, and the color, which is red. If we change this and we add the year, Diablo is 1990, and we hit F5, now C# is clever enough to say, okay, he's used the second of the constructors. So you drive the Lamborghini Diablo, it was first registered in 1990 and its color is red. Okay, we can add a third constructor into our application, And so that would mean that we don't even have to have a hard-coded value for color. And in order to create the third constructor, we make some space just above the method drive. We can copy and paste the last constructor that we created, and I'm going to add another string to the list of parameters that this method takes, and it's going to be a string, and it's going to be obviously color, and then we're going to use the key value this. If we tab twice, it picks up, Visual Studio is able to pick up the name of the variable defined in the list of instant variables, and also assigns it to this color variable as well. Sorry, it assigns a value of the parameter color to the instance variable. So that's 3. I'm just going to put constructor 1, copy, constructor 2. So we've got 3 constructors. And now we have to change our drive method again. Let's make some space over here. Okay, that's slightly better. Okay, so now we don't need to assign this value red to color, because the user's going to pick up. User's going to enter it, sorry. So we can still check for year. So if the year is equal to 0, run this piece of code, and then we have to change this slightly and say else if color is null, is equal to null, and then we know the color is not passed in, so we have to get rid of this part. Actually, before I get rid of that, I'm just going to copy and paste it, or copy it at least. So if color is null, we don't have a value for color, so we're not going to be able to do this part. I'm not going to leave a space there, and we're just going to output the values for make, model, and year. And then finally else. And that should work, I think. So let me explain what we've done. We've created our third constructor, and in this constructor, the user is able to pass in make, model, year, and color. We assign the values passed in into the constructor to these instance variables, and then we use those instance variables to output them to the console. We determine which variables have been passed in, so if year hasn't been passed in, then we're only going to output make a model. If year is passed in, but color is null, then we're going to output make, model, and year. Otherwise, we're going to assume that all of them have been passed in, and then we're going to put output all of them. Obviously, this is not bulletproof code, so if we're not checking to see if the values are correctly passed in by the user or not. But doing all of that coding would just complicate the code, and it wouldn't actually show what we're trying to show here in terms of being able to create constructors and use them. So if we go over to our cars main method, I'm going to change this slightly. So we've instantiated here, we've instantiated cars, we've given it a reference of my car 1, and we're only passing in a make and model. That's the first instance. We can create another instance of cars, and we're going to say my car 2 equals new cars, and this time I'm going to pass in values. I'm going to pass in Lamborghini. I'm going to pass these in. And I'm going to pass in the year 1998. And that's the second instance of our class cars. I'll copy and paste that. I'm going to create a third one. And I'm going to call this my car 3. And this time I'm going to pass in a color. And I'm going to pass in bright yellow. So we've got 3 constructors, and we've used all 3 of them by instantiating the class cars 3 times and making calls to each of the constructors. In the first constructor we pass in 2 values, in the second we're passing in 3, and in the third we're passing in 4. I think we should be able to build this. Okay, so no build errors. So we are going to call the drive method on our instance car2, and we're also going to call the drive method on our instance mycar3. So let's save this. Just have a look at the code. So we're passing in only make and model here, so let's get rid of this because that's we're not passing in color here. We don't have color here, so we only got make, model, and year. And then here we've got make, model, year, and color. Okay, that looks okay. F5. So you drive the Lamborghini Diablo. That is the first constructor. You drive the Lamborghini Diablo. It was first registered. It wasn't first registered in 1998. It was probably last registered in 1998. But anyway, and then the very last constructor, you drive the Lamborghini Diablo. It was first registered in 1998, which is wrong, and its color is bright yellow. So I'm gonna fix that because it wasn't first registered. It was first registered in 1990. F5 again. And you drive the Lamborghini Diablo. And you drive the Lamborghini Diablo. It was first registered in 1990. And you drive the Lamborghini Diablo. It was first registered in 1990. Its color is bright yellow. That is constructors. A quick recap on what we discussed in this video before we wrap up. We said that all classes have constructors. If we do not provide a constructor, C# creates one in the background for us. In order to create a constructor, we have to give it the same name as a class. We use constructors to initialize our classes. A class can have more than one constructor. This is called constructor overloading. We're not going to discuss overloading too much in these beginners tutorials. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If so, please do hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully catch you in the next one. Thank you so much.